מדברים אמזון, הפודקאסט שמקלף את שכבות העולם הסבוך של אמזון, עם עמית רוזנטל ואלי ונטורה, שני יזמים ותיקים ומנוסים בעולם האי-קומרס. בואו נצא לדרך.
Welcome to another episode of Amazon Talk Podcast. I'm Eli Ventura, Amit Rosenthal, my colleague, here with me as every week. And today we have the pleasure of hosting someone to whom many big Amazon sellers, myself included, owe their success. Back in the days, I'm talking about 2013, 2014, 2015, our guest hosted a podcast called The Amazing Seller. Long before podcasts became as popular as they are today, it was in a gentle and clear words. He explained the ins and outs of Amazon private label. And as I mentioned, I personally know many sellers who, like me, listen to his podcast daily to learn more about the trend of the Amazon FBA and especially the Amazon FBA private label. And I must say that his insight gave me, and I know many others, the courage and the confidence to start their own Amazon FBA business. So welcome, Scott Walker. Scott
Well, thank
Voelker?
you so much for having me. Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me. And it's crazy that you bring up that it's been that long. I mean, gosh, you're right. Like 2013, 2014 was the time. And what are we now? 2024. So we're talking 10 years ago. It doesn't seem possible, but yeah, a lot's
It's,
happened. Yeah,
it's
lots happened.
the dinosaur age.
Yes, yes. And it's funny because the private labeling, I was introduced to it by Ryan Moran, actually, who he had at the time, he was promoting the
Yoga mat.
selling machine.
Yeah, it was the ASM and it introduced the yoga mat
Yep.
special case study.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I remember it was him and was it his cousin that he was doing it with? I think it was, or a friend, might have been a friend of his. I forget his name now, but it was funny because he had a podcast at the time and he had just talked about it in like one episode and then didn't talk about it for a while and then talked about it again when they were promoting ASM. And I got introduced to it by that, and then I was like, I want to give this thing a shot. But then there was no other content out there. So I
Hmm.
was like, I've had my go at podcasting. I had started two other podcasts that really didn't do much. But I was okay behind, getting behind the mic. And I was like, maybe what I'll do is I'll start documenting this. Now, this was documenting it after I'd already had some success. But then I was like, I'll just go ahead and try it and see what happens. And the rest is kind of history. But
Yeah.
so I do owe the idea of just getting started from Ryan. He didn't really have a lot of like click here, click there, like do this, like product research. Like there was none of that. It was more like really, really high level. Um,
Inspiration.
yeah, it was just like I'm doing this, and then he would lead you over to ASM, and then they would kind of do the selling of the product. I never purchased that program. Um, I basically just kind of winged it. I just kind of like figured it out as I went in bits and pieces. And as I was doing it, then I'm like, maybe there's a place for me to just show up and do this for free on a podcast and see what happens. And that was my goal, is just to build the audience. But it's also because I've built other audiences and other niches, and I've kind of done the whole digital product thing, but people didn't know that when I started. But that's a little bit of a backstory.
Amazing. So let's start as we start every episode. Please take us in a journey back on time, roughly 6 months before you start your Amazon journey.
Yeah.
What are you doing these days? What you did? What's your age? And
Yeah.
what inspired you to dive into the world of Amazon?
Yeah, it's funny. I was around 40-ish. I'm 52 now, just turned 52. So yeah, I was just over 40. And I remember that uh at that time too, when I don't know anybody else felt it, but I was like, I turned 40 and I'm like, man, I'm in a midlife crisis here, right? I'm like, what am I gonna do? And so I got in shape. That was one thing. I got in the best shape of my life when I was 40 years old. I saw an infomercial with Sean T from Beachbody doing Insanity. And if anybody's ever heard of that program, it's literally insane. And I did it, and it kind of got me to thinking like, okay, this is a change here, but now, like let me kind of look into like, maybe even not changing careers, but my wife and we were running a photography studio for probably 8 years at that point, and we were running a digital online business at the time too. But I was starting to get a little tired of that. It was providing a living. We were, working for ourselves. But I just felt like there was this change, but I didn't know what it was. So I would say at that point in time, I was into fitness, and I was also into maybe like a slight pivot, like career wise. Like I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And that's where I kind of was like, and I've always been an entrepreneur kind of at heart. So I was like, I started seeing this, this private label thing. And I'm like, let me just go ahead and let's give it a shot. And I remember my first order was like $5,000. I've talked about this a little bit since, but I really haven't like came out and said it. But I was selling exercise stuff. I was selling like my first product was like the bands that everybody sells now, like the little bands, the 5-pack.
Yeah.
Now people are doing a 5-pack and other things, like they've got like they're so oversaturated. But that was my first go. So what was I doing? I was turning 40-ish, feeling I needed a change in life, and got in shape and started to play around with the Amazon FBA. But at the time, I was teaching people photography stuff with my other business, which I talk about a little bit here and there. And I actually put that in my book. My wife and I were photographers, but then we were teaching people. And I was more or less teaching like the Photoshop editing, for a photographer. And that's what we kind of did. And we turned that into a pretty successful full-time gig for us. And we did that for like 7 years online.
7 years, the photography or the fitness? The photography.
So we had a studio for like 7 years, 6-7 years. And then from there, part-time, I was starting to dabble with the online space. And then that's where I started a little YouTube channel way back in the day, like 15 years ago. And then I started to share what my wife and I were doing, very similar to what I did with The Amazing Seller. See, there's a pattern there, right? I did the audience building. Then from there, I said, oh, maybe if I build an audience in this Amazon space, I might be able to do something. And I tried that, did the podcast. That's because podcasting was kind of the thing at that time. YouTube but it wasn't as popular as I guess, interesting to me as a podcast. Because the podcast, I didn't have to show up on camera. I just had to kind of get behind the mic.
What, 15 years ago, the YouTube? There was really nothing though. Like it's like,
Yeah, there was YouTube. I've got a video up right now that's almost 15 years old. But yeah, YouTube was a thing. It just wasn't, you got to remember 15 years ago, high-speed internet was not that. Like we wouldn't be doing this, right? If we were, it'd be all glitchy.
That time people would say like YouTube, why should I publish my video on YouTube? Who's gonna watch that? So
Yeah.
you
And a lot
you
and a lot of the
definitely
stuff back then.
you definitely like saw the future in many aspects, like podcasting, YouTube, and more.
Yeah, I guess I kind of did. I did also what I felt like I could do. Like I'm not a good writer, so for me to kind of do like blogging and like writing like email or writing ebooks or anything like that, like I couldn't get behind that because it wasn't a strong suit for me. But
Yeah.
years ago, I was in a rock band and I played guitar and I sang and all that stuff. So I didn't mind being behind the mic and being like a performer. So to get behind a mic with podcasting, I'm like, this might be something for me. And it ended up working out really well for me. So, yeah.
But did you thought from time to time, is it worth my time? Can we make money from podcasting?
Yeah. Well, and that's the funny thing is like when I first decided to do the podcast, I had said to my wife, I'm like, I'm thinking about doing this podcast thing. And but I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know if anybody's going to listen. Like, I don't know, I'm like, I don't know if I want to waste the time. If I'm not going to be able to reach anybody, I want to reach people. That's the whole thing. It's not just about the money, but it's like impact. I want to be able to reach people. And she's like, you know what? You're so good on explaining things. You're so good on audio or even just on camera. She goes, you really should give it a go. And I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, just give it like 25, just do like 25 episodes and see what happens. And I'm like, you know what? That's a good little goal. Let's do 25 episodes and then I'll reevaluate. And within 5 episodes, it started to take. And I started to see like there's going to be something here, but I still didn't know what it was going to be. And so then I just kept recording, and I didn't make my first dollar with that podcast until like episode 64. And that was with Greg Mercer, who's a good friend of mine now, but you guys probably know of him, who started Jungle Scout.
Jungle.
So I was one of the first beta testers of that Chrome plugin at the time. And then that turned into a multi-million dollar business for the tool industry. But that was my first dollar, is I had him on the podcast and I basically talked about the tool, and I had an affiliate link and someone bought through my link, and I made, I don't know what it was at the time, $10 because someone signed up through my link. And so I was like, ooh, okay, that was cool. And then the rest is kind of history. It just kind of followed suit.
Wow. Can you share with us the beginning of the Amazon journey?
Yeah.
If you remember?
Oh, I remember.
It
I remember
was
very, very clearly.
very, very different time. I think last year was different time than now. So
oh yeah. So
11
yeah,
years ago.
I'll give you the exact play-by-play. So basically, I came up with the idea because I was into fitness. So I'm like, I'm going to do something in fitness because I've always been about like, well, if I can build a brand around this, it'll be better. But let me just start with something that I know. And so I started going down that road, and I did a little bit of research. I didn't use Jungle Scout at the time because it wasn't there yet. So I just kind of looked at the BSR, and I was looking at like, oh, okay, I'm kind of trying to do the math and everything. And I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go with these. And so I went and I reached out to a supplier through Alibaba, found a supplier, and then got my first shipment. And that was another thing that I was doubting. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm laying out $5,000, and at the time, I was doing okay with the photography stuff, but we weren't like banking money, right? It was like $5,000. I got to talk to the wife about that, right? And so talked to her, and she's like, my wife's always been a big cheerleader of what I've done. And she's like, I mean, what do we got to lose? It's $5,000. Like, we'll figure it out. And I'm like, okay. So did that, ordered it. And then once I ordered it, the big thing back then, you remember Zonblast? Anybody remember that?
Wow.
Or is that too? No, you didn't hear a Zonblast?
No, it's familiar, but I can put my finger on it.
I've got some inside info then for your audience. So check this out. So Ryan Moran had a guy, and I forget the guy's name now, a guy that was in his little cohort who was going through ASM at the time. And he ended up creating, because he knew back then, that if you had a list of people that would buy your product at a full discount, it would act as a sale, and then it would bump up the rankings. So he built a list of, yeah. So what he basically did is he built a list. He advertised it, I believe, on Facebook or wherever, and he built a list of people that were Amazon buyers that wanted to get product for free. Okay. And so what we would do is you would pay him a service now, because he built this massive list of people that just wanted to buy the product. And then what we would do is we would pay the fee. And at the time, I think I paid $800 to run this to his list. Okay. And so then again, think about this. I paid $5 for the product. I had to pay for the Amazon fees, right? All that stuff. And I paid $800 to this guy to run this to this list. Okay. Well, and I'm not even exaggerating, within an hour, I sold 140 units.
How many units did you committed?
But why wouldn't you? It was free to these people, right?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, it helped at that time. Boom, it got me off to the races. It showed like I was, again, I had a lot of sales coming through. So then all of a sudden I got up in the rankings, and boom, that product went on to do like $300,000 that first year. So, you know what I mean? Like, so just from that little trick, if you will, right? Like, it was like we generated sales very quickly to show the algorithm that this product is selling. So they should, because we all know that Amazon's algorithm it works based off of sales a lot of times, right? It's like if you get a lot of sales, you're going to outrank everyone because it's proven to sell.
Yeah.
Now Amazon's ripping off those products and making Amazon basics, and then you're out of luck. That's for another topic. But yeah, so that's what I did. I did that, and then I launched a couple of other products on the back end of that, and then yeah, I mean, did a few $1 million, on Amazon. So it was like, that's what kind of got me introduced. But it also, the cool thing about that for me was it also gave me a case study that I could talk about. Now, I couldn't share the product with publicly. Now I can, but back then I couldn't, because what happens if I share that product? Everyone else is going to start selling it. And I used to actually use as a reference the garlic press. I don't know
The
if you remember
garlic
talking about the
press,
garlic
of
press.
course, everyone talking about the garlic press.
And
I'm still
everyone,
talking about the garlic press.
well, listen, and you know who started the garlic? I'm the OG of garlic presses. If you want to go back in time, I'm the one. I'm going to take credit for that, damn it. Right? So I'm the garlic press inventor of the Amazon space. So I should have a trophy for the garlic press.
Definitely.
So it's still going though, huh? The garlic press is still the example that people share.
Wow, definitely. Every time, even in our podcast, I mean, how many times I talked about
Thanks,
the
thanks.
garlic press?
Yeah.
That's
Like
hysterical.
when everyone wants to give like a big example for whatever it is, so they're taking
Yeah.
the garlic press, right?
Hey, okay. Well, at least I put my mark on the Amazon space for the
Yeah,
garlic press.
absolutely.
Um, but yeah, I mean, so that's basically that was the start. And so I was able to then keep that going. We did well with it. Obviously, a lot of competitors came in, started to come take after our sales. But then also, as I'm running the Amazing Seller podcast, and then at that point in time, I did launch a course, which did very well for 3 years straight. And then as you start doing that, though, you start looking at the Amazon side, you're like, okay, I got the choice here. I can spend a lot of time focusing on this, or I could be an educator in this space. So it was hard to do both. I did both. And then that's where I partnered with a neighbor of ours. And then we started another brand in the kitchen space. And then we went on to build that brand. She ran it the day to day. I just was more of I invested some money in it in the beginning. And then I also was the advisor, if you will. And then we ended up building that, ran it for like 3 years, and then ended up selling it. So
Way before the aggregator area, right?
yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, like I am kind of out of the loop with the Amazon stuff. So if you were to like give me like a rundown, like you could teach me like all over again, because I'm sure it's changed dramatically. But I mean, I kind of, after we sold that brand, which is about 3 years ago now, I kind of just said, I'm kind of done with the Amazon thing right now. And that's why I changed my podcast name to Rock Your Brand. I pivoted and just kind of went into a different direction,
And this is where
Fine.
it became
Maybe
interesting.
shed some light on why you decided to say, all right, Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, sure. I'm more than happy, and I'm always open and transparent with that. Uh, I was kind of tired of it. I was tired of inventory, to be honest. Like sitting on, at the time, 100, $200,000 in inventory, and just sitting there on it. And, I had friends of mine, you guys probably know Mike Jackness, he was telling me he couldn't sleep at night because he had $1 million in inventory sitting in a warehouse and hoping that Amazon doesn't shut his account down. So I was kind of done with it at that time. I had all these accolades of success, not just with Amazon. Like Amazon was great, but that also allowed me to sell out an event that I put on with over 200 people. My first ever live event. I wrote a book off the back end of it, not on Amazon, but it's called the Take Action Effect, and that helped me do that. I ran a mastermind. I did millions of dollars in course sales.
Take action. Now I remember.
Yeah.
Take action was your
Yeah.
slogan. Take
Right
action.
here.
I remember that
Right there.
I finished
There's the
hearing
slogan.
your podcast during a gym or during a running outside, and you
Yeah.
said in the end, take action. Remember, take action. And I go out and say, I need to take action. First, I
That's
need to take a
right.
shower, but I need to take action.
That's right. Yeah. So that was my thing. It's still my thing. And that's why, I mean, I wrote this book not necessarily for Amazon people. It's just for if you want to get something out of life, you got to take action to be able to then get a result. So like everything I did, right? I was a construction worker out of high school. From there, I worked there for 8 years, thought I was going to own the company. Then stuff fell apart with that business my father owned. And then from there, my wife and I started a photography business. From there, that turned into a digital online business. From there, I went into Amazon. Then from there, I'm doing what I'm doing now. And it's all because of this, right? It's all in here. I actually share everything in there. It's like if you take action on something, you're going to get a result rather than us just read about it and you're like, oh yeah, that's how you do it. But you didn't do
And
it,
then,
right?
yeah.
So if you do it, you're going to get a result of some kind. It could be a bad result. It could be a good result. It could be like, oh, that was just okay. I didn't like the way that felt. But even like you can imagine like what it would feel like. You probably got people in your audience. They're like, man, I wish I could do $1 million in sales on Amazon. I just wish I could do that. Right. And then they do it and they're like, holy crap, that sucked.
Hmm.
Right. You literally could have that. And I've done it because everyone wants to get to the top of the mountain, but when they get to the top of the mountain, they're like, wow, either what's next or that was hard. And I didn't enjoy that. Like my feet hurt, my back hurts, right? I don't like the stress it put on my life. So then you start to reevaluate what you really want or a different vehicle to get you to where you want. But for me, it's never been about the bank account. It's been about, and it goes all the way back 20 years ago when I was working in the construction field. I was working 60, 70-hour weeks and I had two young kids at home and I wasn't able to see them because I was working 12 hours a day. So that's where I said, I don't care if I make less money, if I can make it work and stay home. That to me, I'm rich at that point because now I get to raise my kids. And we made that decision early. I was, 26 or 27, maybe 28. And then from there, we started that photography business. And then that allowed me to come home and work from home. And I've been self-employed for over 20 years now. And I've raised my kids. My kids are 29, 26, and 16. So,
And
yeah.
wow. And that's what happened to you 3 years ago? That you think, okay, we did so many great things. We climbed the mountain, but my back hurt. I'm sitting on $1 million of inventory, and I'm sick of that, and I want to find something else.
Yeah. I mean, it was that partly. Uh, and then it was also, I don't want to be known for the rest of my life as the Amazon guy.
Okay. So it's
Okay.
also the influencer idea.
It's what do I want to be? What do I want to leave the world with? Right. I'm 52. Right. I realize there's an end here, and it's like at the end of the day, do I want to be known for helping people build Amazon businesses, or do I want to be known just for helping people build a business that can free them from their job or from a bad situation? Like that's what I want to be known for helping people regardless. And so when I started to feel cornered, I started to ask myself, is this what I really want to do? And it wasn't, and so I took a pay cut. Like I could have rode that wave and kept selling my course and, feeling like I'm pretending because I wasn't in it anymore. Like I don't want to teach you something that I'm not currently doing, right? I did
Wow.
it. Like right now, if I was to help you with Amazon, I could help you, but I wouldn't be able to help you the way I would if I was into it dealing with the day-to-day problems.
You know that there are so many, so many people that selling their Amazon training currently
Mm,
that doesn't touch it in their hands
yeah.
for the last 1 or 2 years, and
Yeah.
it's driving me crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe I see a path here, that like because we, like meaning we, like me and Ellie, are at start of our 40s.
Mhm.
We're like asking basically our like same question, so to speak. And you are in the beginning of your 50s, and I guess like in every decade you're starting questioning, what do I do? Do I like what I do? Is
Mhm.
that what I want to do?
Yep.
And I think, considering like every decade you grow and so on. So the decision making is more like, okay, now it's like my time and what do I want to do and how like people want to recognize myself. And I think like very inspirational what you say, at least to me and the position I am currently now. So
Mhm.
great to hear that feedback from you as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's a real thing. And it's funny because like I said, like I'm currently in, I don't want to say a transition, but somewhat of a pivot that I'm planning for the next 5 years. And so I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Dean Jackson. Um, Dean Jackson's been in the online internet marketing kind of space for probably 20 years. And he's in the real estate space, but he also just teaches online business, but he's just old school. And he wrote an email that really, really struck me. And he said basically your next 25 years. And then he wrote the email and saying like there's a place where you could probably go and teach what you're going to be lit up, it's going to light you up. And or it could be over here where you're just looking at like how can I make money or how can so the email was more or less for you to reflect on your life and say what do you truly want to do and what do you truly want to help people with and forget about the money for a second and let that be your next 25 years. And so when he said that to me, I was like, damn, like, what am I doing? And this happened, this was about 2 years ago. And then just this last year is when it kind of hit me on like what I really want to do. And what I really want to do is help people with what I've been able to do and build audiences. And I don't care if the audience is you're a construction worker and you want to get out of being a construction worker and maybe just teach people what you've learned doing it for 20 years and maybe start a YouTube channel and then build an audience and then leverage the audience with ways to monetize it. Like that's truly what lights me up. So I'm like, why am I not doing that? And so actually my son and I started a new YouTube channel and we're working together on it. So I've got a 26-year-old son now that I get to kind of work, with alongside with, and we're building this thing from scratch and it's going to be great. But it's a 5-year play for me to where I know that it might not make any money, which we've already made some money, but it's like if it hasn't made any money in a year, that's okay because I'm just building the foundation to where I want to be in the next 5. Does that make
Wow.
sense?
For us, yes, but I think many of our audience now just thinking 5 years, it's so much. Many of our audience living in Israel, and in Israel, 5 years can be, you know,
Right.
eternity.
Yeah.
But okay, let's go back to the spot that you're selling your business,
Mhm.
and you want to see to do something else. You want to
Yep.
expand your audience. You expand your reach, your deliver.
Mhm.
What are you doing next?
Yeah. So it was a little bit of I'm going to take a year off, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. It was like, I got to step away from the microphone, but I didn't. But I wasn't sure where I was going. Right. It was kind of like I was a little bit lost. And I was like, man, like, what do I want to do? And then the next thing and what I'm doing right now kind of fell into my lap, in a sense, but it was also because we were taking action. And what I mean is my wife was taking action. So it's funny, my business partner, who she had never dealt with e-commerce, she was a blogger. And she was a neighbor of mine. And so we kind of partnered up and she found out very quickly that having inventory was stressful. And so she was like, if we sell this business, we walk away, each with a good chunk of money, that'd be great. And I'm like, we can do that. So we did and sold the business. And then afterwards, but she's the type that she wants to be doing stuff. She's a take actioner. She gets out there and gets
Hmm.
stuff done. And so she started playing with Etsy and she started playing with print on demand. And she's like, man, print on demand, Scott, you don't have to have any inventory. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to go down that road. Right. So her and my wife got together and she showed my wife what she was doing. And then my wife started a little Etsy shop. And maybe, I don't know, 8 months go by and I start seeing some deposits come in and I'm like, what's going on? What are you doing over there? And then she told me about the whole Etsy thing. And I'm like, well, maybe if I get behind this, we can, build this thing and I can help you. And so then I said, maybe what I do is I start sharing what we're doing on Etsy. And I did that 18 months ago. And we added another 70,000 subscribers to our YouTube channel since I made that pivot.
Wow.
And so now my whole like positioning now over on the YouTube side of things is Etsy. Okay. And so why? We're doing it. My wife is. I'm documenting and telling people what she's doing. And then I'm also in the trenches looking at like analytics and looking at like how the system works, how the platform works, helping people, answering questions, and all that stuff. So it kind of fell in my lap. But what's happening now? Scott, what's Scott thinking? Scott don't want to be known as the Etsy guy for the rest of his life.
Of course.
Right?
Maybe
So
for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, like Scott's almost putting himself back into the corner of being painted into like being known for this thing. And so that's where the idea of what do I really want to be known for? And can I start building that today, even knowing that it's going to take a while to get to the place where I want to be? And so the big grand vision is eventually I want to be helping people with video, YouTube, building audiences. Like that's where I want to live. So that'll eventually be probably what I'm doing full time. But like right now, I'm still in the e-commerce space because I'm in it, right? My wife's still running her little Etsy shop and I'm helping people with their Etsy shops. And so I'm still in it. I'm in the trenches. But I'm also in the trenches of YouTube pretty deep. So
in terms of e-commerce, do you think that Etsy is kind of like Amazon in 2015?
No, I don't think it'll ever be Amazon.
Okay.
Like people that are on Amazon, they're looking at like, and I don't know, like right now, you tell me. And again, we'll talk just revenue numbers because I'm always kind of like looking at that and like when people are like they're like, look at my screenshot, I did 100 grand, and it's like, yeah, okay, but you made 10% profit. Okay, what really was it, right? But what is like what gets someone's attention? Because when I was starting back in the day, for me to put up that I made 25,000 in revenue for a month, that was good. Like people were like, whoa, show me what you did. But I don't think it's that way on Amazon. I think now you got to be doing 100K plus.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Definitely.
Yeah. So if you're not showing screenshots for 100 grand a month, you're pretty much just you're doing okay.
Yeah, but as you said, the net profit, the bottom line, this is what's important.
Yeah.
And
but
Amazon,
it's the same thing. It's the same thing on Etsy, right? The difference is if I show a monthly revenue of 5 to 10 grand, Etsy people are like, wow, that's amazing. Okay. Numbers are a lot lower.
Because the margins are higher.
Not necessarily higher because you are doing print on demand. But my point is your numbers, people on Etsy that are Etsy sellers are not trying to build a multi-million-dollar brand. They're just trying to make.
Why they're doing it? Why they're doing it, basically?
Why aren't people on Etsy doing it?
Yeah. Why are they selling on Etsy?
Well, it's a very easy marketplace to learn. I think for the average Sally, that's a homemaker that has kids and she wants to make an extra grand a month, it's perfect. Right? It's not for the e-commerce big, business. Now there are people on there's a seed company that sells seeds for the garden doing millions of dollars. Okay. There's a jewelry business on there. And I had to actually interview him. Him and his wife started it in their living room, millions of dollars. But there's a lot less of those than on Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon, you're going to be able to potentially make millions of dollars. You also got more risk because you've got inventory. You have to FBA it, right? You have to put in inventory. With Etsy, there's very little risk because I can have, like my wife can have 700 products in there and not pay a dime for them until they sell. Right. So it's very similar to drop shipping. But, and again, like she can create a design for a sweatshirt, have it up on the site by, the afternoon, right? You don't have to go and quality control it and get an inspection and have it shipped, and then it gets lost in shipping, and then, your import tax came in, or whatever, right? You got all these different things logistically that happens. You don't have that on Etsy. The difference is Etsy doesn't have as big of an audience as Amazon does. That's
Yeah,
the difference.
but Etsy did a great jump on the COVID
Oh yeah.
area.
Oh yeah. I mean, they went from where it was just handmade to now you can do digital products. You could do print on demand products. Okay, so they've opened it up to where it's a bigger opportunity for people
Yeah.
that aren't just hand making stuff. They're putting a lot of money behind advertising. I mean, millions of dollars in advertising that they're doing. But I've been on Amazon as far as a seller goes, and I see what is available there, even tools wise, like internal tools. And over on Etsy, it's like we're still back in like 2010,
Hmm.
right? It's so basic. Like, I'll give you an example. Like their Etsy ads, when you turn on ads, there's only a couple things you can do. You can't really go in, you can't target keywords. You can't like put in negative keywords, and you can't do any of that stuff. It's
I missed
literally you
that.
turn it on. Yeah,
I
you
mean, I
turn it
missed this
on.
time.
Yeah, you just turn it on, set your ad budget, and then you can look and see what keywords are being entered that are directing people there, and then you can decide, you can turn them off, but it doesn't guarantee that you're not going to show up for it.
Hmm.
And that's it. That's what you can do. And now they do also, though, they offer where they, once you get past $10,000 in sales, they, once you turn on ads, they will also advertise outside of Etsy. So they'll do Google ads, they'll do Facebook ads, and then you only pay if that item sells. So that's pretty cool, but you have no control over it.
Yeah.
Zero.
Would you recommend to successful Amazon sellers that have successful products, successful brands on Amazon right now
Mhm.
to try to expand their marketplace to Etsy?
I would. It depends on the product, because if you have a product that is you can't just take a product and then just sell a whole bunch of product on there. It's either got to be personalized, or it has to be something that you've either designed. And I don't mean designed like you designed uh I don't know, your bands, right? Your exercise bands. You didn't design them and now it's yours and you have a patent on it. It's more or less like you've designed like a lot of stuff there is like
A
you
garlic
buy something
press.
that's got a print or something.
Let's design a garlic press.
Yeah, yeah. It wouldn't, well, you couldn't just design the garlic press. The garlic press would have to be customized. You have to be personalized. So it'd have
Got
to
it.
be like, Scott's Kitchen, and then that would be put on there, right? So you'd have
This
to
is
have
the
a
kind.
level of that. Yeah.
So this is the kind of product that people are searching for Etsy.
Mhm.
The
Yes.
personalized, the unique.
Personalized is that is their big thing. So
Wow.
if you want something and they'll say that like in their advertising, it's like you don't know what to get your dad. And so you'll go there and say gift for dad. They actually just rolled out something they call gift mode, where you go there and you type in whoever you're looking for, and it'll give you like a guide that is tailored towards that type of person, like a music lover. Like you would find all products for someone that's into music. You'd have people that are into gardening, people that are into whatever, teachers, whatever. And then you be able to basically look through their gift mode, as they call it. Yeah.
Amazing. And what
Yeah.
about Shopify? Why not Shopify?
Oh, I think Shopify is great, but Shopify is going to take more knowledge and skill set than it is to go onto a platform that's already got all that stuff baked in, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a fan of Shopify. We had Shopify for the brand that we sold, and it did well. Actually, my ex partner that we sold that brand together, she's doing print on demand now, and she's doing it through Etsy, but she also has a Shopify store that's doing really well. So yeah, Shopify is great, but Shopify is not a platform that gives you traffic, right? You have to go get the traffic. And that's where
Right.
people struggle, because that's a whole nother side of business. It's like one thing to have the products, but how do you get the traffic? Amazon has their own traffic. Etsy has their own, eBay, Walmart, all of them.
Got it. Scott, we're heading for the head of the session. It was
Yeah.
super fast today because I thought that we have many more time, but we run out of time and we can, I think, continue at least an hour from now to just discuss Amazon, Etsy, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
do have a steady question in every show that we the same question that we ask all our guests.
Okay.
And it's really interesting to hear your answer about it. What would you do with $10 million net if you want them tomorrow?
What would I do with $10 million if I got it tomorrow?
Yeah.
Well, I'd have to pay taxes on it. So that
No,
brings
no,
us
no,
down.
net, after taxes.
Am I netting that? Okay.
Net.
Okay. I'm going to net that. I'm probably going to put I'm going to probably put a good chunk of that. I'd say, let's say 50% of that I'm going to put into uh, some type of fund that's going to yield me at least 8%. So I can then have that as my security blanket. That's going to help me. And then the other, honestly, I would probably find a way to invest it in people. I would probably find a way to give it um, to be able to see impact, honestly.
Okay.
Like I think I could take 5 million and set myself up to have a nice little steady stream of income. And then I think the other five I would do to invest in people. And that could be people's businesses. It could be just maybe a cause. It could be maybe I started a nonprofit. I don't know. I'm not there, but there are some things that are of interest to me that I want to, again, like I had said earlier, it's what I would like to leave the world with, right? And I think that's what I would do. 5 million for myself to be able to, maybe live off some of that interest or at least give me a little bit of a steady flow. And then from there, I think the other five I'd invest in others.
What about vacation, resting?
Well, that's going to come out of the other money
The
that's
first five,
that's
yeah,
coming through
from the
the 5
first five,
mil. You know
maybe.
what I mean? Like I'm not one that's going to go, I'm going to buy a yacht, I'm going to do this. But yeah, the family's going to go on vacation, right? Like,
Yeah.
and our thing is like we'd probably go to another country or something and visit someplace we didn't go before. Honestly, like we love Puerto Rico. My wife and I would probably go to Puerto Rico, maybe even buy a place in Puerto Rico. I don't know, like something like that. But with 5 million, okay, so let's say we take 4 million, we put that into some type of stock, investment fund that's going to yield me at least 8%. And then a million we'll just go play with. And then I'd say the other five, we're going to invest in people. Maybe that's what we do.
Sounds like a plan. Scott Voelker, thank you. Thank you very much for your time, for your insights. I think it was one of our best episodes in the last year, at
I
least.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I
And
hope that it inspires others. And I want to thank you for being a listener for when you started to listen. And I appreciate you tuning in. And I think anyone out there also like just thinking to themselves, like right now, like you're in it, you're in your business, you're working on your business, whether it's to build it, to grow it, to sell it. Um, just know that what you're doing right now is probably going to be the thing that helps you get to the next level or the next thing. Because where you want to go isn't necessarily where you're going to end up.
wow,
So just leave you with that.
amazing.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, Scott.
Yeah, you guys too. Thanks so much and nice meeting you. And good luck to you guys.
Good luck.
Your pleasure.
Bye.
Take care.